Okay, guys. Hello again. Welcome back. Just got off work from a 5 to 10 p.m. shift, so 5 hours. And just remember that I forgot to clock out, so my manager is probably going to be, just a little bit annoyed that he has to change my hours. But that's part of his job, too. I got 12 hands to review, and this is from a 915 hand session. I'm pretty surprised that there's only 12 hands to review, but if you do the math, what's 10, 30, well, okay, so 10 big blinds at 25 NL is 250, so 30 big blinds would be 750, and these are all the pots that are above 750. So that's correct. So 12 hands out of 915 hands, or over 30 big blinds. It really, again, just goes to show you how many hands you actually play where basically nothing happens. So these are the biggest pots out of the 915 hand session. That just always surprises me whenever I hear that, or I hear myself have to say that again. Total for 2017, the past 4 days, this is actually January 2nd, 2017, and 6,800 hands played. My profit, you see a lot of green here. This is $250 profit over 6,800 hands. I have a little bit, 25, I played a little bit of 50 NL, even though my bankroll's at, like $511. I know that's pretty extreme, but I can kind of handle it if I'm feeling up to it for the day. I don't really change my gameplay. I just play normally, and so basically I won some money. It shows that my EV adjusted. I actually should have lost money, but I played some 25 NL today as well, and I made money there. I'm running a little bit better than my EV, but overall my BB per 100 with the EV adjusted should be around like 12 per 100, but again, 7,000 hands is a insanely small sample size. Whoops, that's not, you don't want to see all that. Okay, so basically this is the first hand. We have Queen Ace offsuit. Let's just get into the action here. 75 cents, being raised by Mr. C Super. He's a 73.31, and this Bar Boss guy calls, and he didn't 3-bet or anything, so I'm not going to put his range super high. I'd like to see myself 3-bet this, so yeah, there we go. That's a good 3-bet size, I think. I really don't want Bar Boss to call, but if Mr. C Super calls, Bar Boss is probably going to call as well. So looks like I'm being 4-bet here, which kind of sucks, but okay, so this is 1025. This guy has a 26.3% 3-bet as of 45 hands in, which isn't a big sample size, but the 73.31, that's pretty extreme. So I'm 3-betting, or I'm trying to squeeze basically, and Mr. C Super 4-bets me really small. I just got this feeling like Queen Ace is going to be good here against this type of player. I really would almost never be shoving Queen Ace, but let's see what happens. Let's see if my gut feeling turned out correct. There we go, look at that. The money is going towards me, and yeah, that's nice. I like that. So look, they had 5 kings suited. They're shoving, they're actually 4-betting pre-flop and then calling my shove with 5 kings suited. So my read is correct. I have pretty good reads based off stats and things like that. This guy is kind of like a psycho whale. I would label them like a psycho whale, meaning that they're so freaking random and just, you want to get your money in a little bit lighter against those kind of players. It looks like I have this video in reverse of what I normally do. I normally start with the smallest pots first and advance to the biggest. But let's see what happens with aces here. So it's 7-6-4. This guy just flats in the blinds. So whenever somebody flats in the blinds and they don't 3-bet, generally a 3-bet range, it's important to kind of know what hands they probably don't have. So they probably don't have something like Queen King, Ace Queen, even a lot of like Jack Queens, Queen Tens will 3-bet. A lot of the times a player with these stats and a player with these type of a 3-bet stat is going to have middle pocket pairs to low pocket pairs, like 2s through 9s, sometimes 10s. They're probably going to be 3-betting jacks and queens and kings, maybe not jack, depending on if they don't like playing out of position. They're probably not going to have ace king, ace queen, king queen, jack king off maybe, and they might be calling me out of position with things like 7-8 suited, 9-10 suited. I mean, you know, that's sometimes true, but this guy doesn't seem to be too crazy. He might just fold something like a 7-8 suited if it's not multi-way. His fold to 3-bet in position is 71%, and his fold flop is 47%, and his fold to steal is 76%. Okay, so this fold to steal is 76% out of a 700 hand sample, which basically means that he's folding 76% of I guess the times when the button is raising. I'm not really sure if that includes the cutoff as well in that stat, but that's a pretty high number, 76%. So this guy doesn't seem to be too aggressive. He's pretty nitty, I would say, or tight aggressive. So if he starts getting aggressive post flop, I'm going to have to be pretty careful. So he checks. I bet. Okay, so then I'm getting raised on a 7-6-4 flop. This definitely hits their range for pocket pairs, as I put forward before. Something like 8-9, 7, or maybe like 4-5 of clubs, 7-6 for 2 pair. He could have a straight draw. He could have clubs. Even though I'm holding the ace of clubs, he could still have clubs here. So I'm not going to be folding the flop. This guy is tag. He's tag stats, so he definitely knows how to check raise draws. I'm just going to give that to him right now. So the queen hits the turn, and he bets 636. And now I pretty much, I don't think that I need to jam just yet, or I might jam. I might just give him more rope to hang himself with if he wants to triple barrel bluff, try to use this queen as a card. But at the same time, I could even consider folding, because as I said in the beginning, he's not afraid of the queen. He knows that I have position on him, so he's getting pretty aggressive. He check raises the flop. He bets the turn pretty big. His bet turn is 45%. Again, like, his stats are just showing that he's not super crazy aggressive. 71% 3-bet in position, fold to 3-bet in position, 76% fold to steal. His bet flop is 63, bet turn is 45. His squeeze is only 5.9. That's not very big. I think this might be... Oh, his 4-bet percentage is 0, actually, after 700 hands. Okay, so it looks like I jam. I mean, I don't know. Well, we're going to see what happens here. So, okay, it looks like the money's going to me. And he had pocket nines. So I guess what I was thinking is I'm just kind of not giving this player credit at 25 NL. And I actually kind of included some draws. I guess if they had something like Queen 10 of clubs or Queen Jack of clubs, and they might actually bet the turn with a Queen. 8-9 might have bet again. Clubs would have bet again, maybe. I gave a few hands in the beginning that he could be actually check raising me with, but check raising me with nines and then betting the turn, that's a super weird way to play pocket nines. He could actually have bet me pre-flop, and that actually would have been fine with pocket nines, but I don't understand why he would be check raising with pocket nines here. That's just super random. So I made a note about that. I'm pretty sure. As you can see, I don't remember this hand at all. I actually would be inclined to fold aces sometimes. Maybe versus like super nitty players that are like 16-12 with like a 2% 3-bet and, you know, something a little bit more extreme. I guess I just had a gut feeling where maybe the timing or whatever, and I decided to shove the aces, and it turned out to be a good play. I'm not going to say it was an amazing shove on the turn, but I'm not going to say that I always shove on the turn. But also, this is me kind of coming from 10 and L, where I kind of never would have folded aces at 10 and L just because those players are even more random and just weird. So this guy, so pre-flop, I raised to 50 cents, and they're 34-7. This flop, I guess I could bet, and I guess normally I would bet. I would have liked to have seen myself bet, because Lucky would have called me with a pretty wide range, and they could even have clubs, they could have overcards that want to call, they could have ace highs, pocket nines, pocket eights. So I really would have liked to have seen myself bet. Even if they have a 10, then I can build a pot up and then stack them at the river. So they bet 25 cents. I check raise. Again, check raising is not really in my arsenal. I don't like check raising as a standard play whenever I flop a monster, unless I feel like they're going to bet. If they're just like a psycho player and they bet like 90% of their hands. So at this point, Lucky, I feel like the 25-cent bet is like a pro bet kind of. They like to bet for information. And then whenever he raises my check raise, I'm not really worried that he's going to have pocket fives or anything like that. I think that it could be a little bit bluffy. Lucky could be kind of being bluffy here, and I don't want to like shove over the top and then get them to fold. I want to see a turn card and then see what happens. So it looks like I donk out, which is okay in my opinion, just because I feel like players don't know how to respond to donk bets. Also, if Lucky is on a draw, like a club draw, and they might decide to check behind on the turn, I think this whole hand is kind of just weird now, just because I didn't bet the flop. So I get I get min raised on the turn. So I'm just gonna go for it. I jam, they call, and okay, so I mean they had pocket fives and I suck out with a 6. I'm not going to play that hand. I'm not ever gonna fold that because I have top trips and they're pretty fishy stats. So I'm sorry, Lucky. Better luck next time. Like, that sucks for them, but you know, I gotta suck out sometimes. It happens that way. So we have pocket aces. Looks like I'm 3-betting to a pretty good size. There's a 2016 and a 26-21. I'm not going to be betting it, 3-betting to like 3 or 350 like I could have against, let's say, this cheat player that's 64-11 or the 44-11 over here. I don't want to 3-bet too big because I definitely want them to call me. I just want them to kind of pay for it. So my 255 is a pretty normal, generally speaking, it's a pretty normal 3-bet size. So this player over here calls, just kind of cold calls the 3-bet, because they're 44-11. They probably just have a pretty hand that they want to see the flop with. Okay, so pocket aces on this flop. This is 25 NL, and we're a little bit deeper. So my first idea would be to bet big. I'm just gonna try to get the money in by the river, shove the river, and get called with like pocket jacks, pocket queens, pocket tens. Maybe they have a draw, I don't know, but I have the ace of hearts. They would have had to have called me with something like queen king of hearts, jack queen of hearts. I'm not really sure a jack queen of hearts would have called that big of a 3-bet. So I'm going to put them on super premium aces and also things like middle pocket pairs and low pocket pairs. So okay, so 477. That's a pretty good bet. I don't need to bet too big, because 477 plus 477 is like 950 plus 6 is 15. So there'd be 15 in the pot on the turn, and I'd have 23 left. So then a turn bet, I could bet like $7 and then just shove the river, and I can get my money in very easily with like a smaller size on the flop. So they call. That's perfect. The king, I'm not worried about at all. So I'm probably just gonna bet like $7 or like $8, $9. Okay, $9. That's okay. Well, because another reason is that if they are on a heart draw for any reason at all, it is possible that they picked up a king if they are on a heart draw. But if the heart misses on the river, then I'm not going to get any more value out of my aces. So I might as well just bet a little bit bigger than 7, get like an extra $1 or $2. And I might just get lucky, and then they might call my river shove with something pretty random. So I shove the river, they fold. Makes me think that they might have had like a jack queen of hearts, or I don't know, maybe like pocket 9s, pocket 3, no, like pocket 9s, pocket 10s, I don't know. They could have called me if they had a hand, but it makes me think that they might have been on a flush draw. Okay, so I want to go back to that the pocket aces hand. I really do think that my flop bet here could have been bigger, and because if I put them on a range of like middle pocket pairs, they could easily have something like 9s, 10s, jacks, queens. Their 3-bet is 0%. Now this means that they could definitely have queens, maybe even kings. And because I have an ace of hearts, it also means that their heart draws are going to be diminished. A little bit. I really don't feel like this Carlos player is going to be calling with 6, 7 of hearts, 2, 3 of hearts, things like that. So it's going to have to be queen, king of hearts, jack, queen of hearts, maybe jack, 10 of hearts. And because of that, I feel like it is possible that they hit a set on this board, and if he faces aggression, or I might face aggression, but because they also have a large range of pocket pairs between 9 and kings, pocket 7s, pocket 5s on the flop at least. I think that my bet's a pretty good size. And again, I'm looking to set myself up for a shove. I feel like this 477 could also keep in something like an ace king or ace queen on the flop. It is possible that they still have an ace, even though I have 2 aces already. So on the king, I'm hoping that they have again 9 9 10 10 Jack Jack, King Queen, Ace King, King Jack, something like that. So I can bet $9 and then just set myself up for a shove. I don't think that they're going to be calling a $24 shove on the turn if they have a heart draw. I don't think that they're going to be that fishy. They're going to have like a pair of kings or like a pair of queens or jacks or something like that. But I think that the $9 is a good bet. I just went to cook some wings. Adobo, like a spicy adobo. I'm not sure if you ever actually had adobo, like the authentic adobo, the chipotle peppers with adobo sauce. But I love spicy food. Even just a little drop of that made me almost want to cry. I mean, it is really one of the spiciest, hottest things that you could buy. Probably like the spiciest thing in the supermarket by far. Even it destroys the habanero sauce that I had from my local grocery store. I mean, there's no competition. I mean, it's painfully spicy. So I just kind of added a little bit of that to some balsamic vinegar and some honey, coriander and cumin, and I'm going to be making some spicy wings. And I have my Modelo Especial Cerveza here as well. So yeah, I'm just going to have a good night, do some session review, maybe watch some Netflix, and also flop sets. So because the board is super dry, there's not a lot of combinations of like straights to a queen or something like that. And I think that 145 is just a pretty average, normal bet. If they have a 7x, if they have pocket 8s, pocket 6s, 8s, 9s, 10s, any queen x, queen 7, I'm gonna get some money in on the flop and the turn, regardless. So here, because they called, I'm going to hope that their range is a little bit tighter, more towards like a queen x, maybe even a 7x with diamonds. And so I feel like I can bet pretty big here, maybe like $3.75, $4. So I could have bet a little bit bigger here, or maybe it's because they only had $12 left. I was planning on just kind of betting like $3.40 and then, okay, that's fine. So $3.40 is fine, because again, it's not a very drawy board. They could have 6-8, I guess, but it's more likely that they have a lot of other combinations that are going to call the turn and the river as well. So they call. It's 10 of diamonds, and I have to now bet $8.50 into $11.53. And I feel like, again, I'm going to actually say that my turn bet could have been a little bit bigger, like $3.75, an extra 35, 40 cents, which would have made this pot more like a $12.30, and they would have had like $8 left. It's just a better shove price. So I shove, and they call, and the money goes to me, and they have king 5. So this is, again, 25 NL, as you see. It's an unknown, only 5 hands. Isn't this really pretty, the way that it has... I set my HUD up so nicely, where everything's color-coded, and I have, like, the bet flop and bet turn is green, squeeze is purple, it goes red, green, red, green, red, green, and then these are 4 different colors. I like it. It's very pretty. And over here, it's very pretty. I like it. It's really nice. So they're calling me down. That's a 50. That's like 100 big blind pot right there. And this player called me down with 4th pair. This reminds me of another video where they called me with 4th pair. So this is happening, and I'm not going to say anything bad about it because I like it. It's just very surprising that I remember that I used to not be able to beat 25-0, and now I'm embarrassed to even say that because these players are. I probably used to be that kind of a player where I kind of would justify like that they might be bluffing me, and I just wasn't thinking, and I might just call with like a third pair, second pair. Yeah, so I'm going to isolate this player. They're 25-0. They're limping. So now the pot's 450, and that's Jack 7-4. And I'm going to bet. I don't see any reason not to bet. 36-7 is going to call a bigger bet, and this player might have been limping like a jack because weaker jacks like Jack 10, Jack Queen might not have raised. So he shoves. I'm going to call. And again, I win the pot. They have pocket eights. So yeah, I'm not going to fold that. He's got a small stack. Okay, so we have Queen Jack in this small blind. And if we scan the table, there's no super fishy players, but a 35-10, 36-10, 26-4, you know, they're not very taggy stats, which means that they're probably going to be weaker players. This player raises to 60 cents on the button. Their steal percentage is 41. And they have sort of taggy stats. Like, these are pretty normal stats for like a winning player or a break-even player. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of pressure on them. I could have actually just called and had this Shazant player get in the pot as well, but their fold to the 3-bets in position is 71%. So I feel like that's a pretty big number, and I can just 3-bet a pretty wide range, and they'll just fold. But as played, he didn't fold Barbas, and I flop top pair. So I could actually just check this and pot control. I don't think that I want to go balls deep here with not like the strongest top pair, and it's not like it's Jack 10-7 or Jack 10-4 where the second card underneath the Jack is going to be call worthy. I don't think that he's going to be putting a lot of money into the pot with something like 7-ace or something like that. So 8-9, 9-10, Jack X, 7-8, 7-ace, all the heart combinations, maybe even something like 5-6 of spades. So that's a pretty big combination that's going to call me on the flop. But as it turns out, I checked the flop, which I'm actually okay with. I really am okay with that. And Barbas bets. I call. That's fine. So because it's a 10 on the turn, more draws are opening up. And if it's not really like my favorite turn card, I would have rather have, obviously like a Jack or a Queen would have been really nice. But something like a 2, 3, 6, 8, 9 would have been better. But it's what it is. I check. Barbas bets again. And by this time, I might even be inclined to fold. I might be inclined to fold, but I'm probably not going to fold. Just because the board is becoming more drawy now. And I'm actually showing incredible weakness by 3-betting and then checking the flop. He's probably not going to think that I have a Jack at this point, and is going to be more inclined to try to bluff me off of pocket 9s or pocket 8s or like an ace high. So I feel like I should be calling this. I hit the queen on the river, and I think that shoving might make sense But then they might actually start to think that I have like king ace, or I could have been on a heart draw with like a queen ace and hit my queen. But I don't. Most players at 25 and L and 10 and L are not going to be triple barrel bluffing. Especially whenever the board runs out like this, where a lot of the higher cards that I might be check calling with got there. Like, I could have had ace king of spades on the turn, or ace king of hearts or something like that, and I could have like hit a straight. So looks like I shove, and this player folds. I think that my shove is pretty nice because, like I said, I don't see Barboss triple barrel bluffing, and if they have something like Jack 10 or 10 Queen, or if they actually have something like Queen King of Hearts or something like that, Queen 9 of Hearts, Ace Queen of Spades or Hearts or something like that, they might call me because they might think that I'm being bluffy. So that's whatever. Really, I don't think that I've done anything too crazy so far out of this 1,000-hand session. I think that was that one time when I missed a bet. The aces, or no, it was the ace 10 I flopped trips, and I think that I could have bet that. So this is a 53-21. They're raising to 85 cents, and they only have 9.55 remaining. So I'm going to be 3-betting this bigger than I normally would, just to put them into a shove or fold position. I don't really want them to call and then have the flop come like ace king 4, because, you know, it would just be kind of awkward. So I want to get the money in pre-flop, which is pretty obvious. But they call, like they don't shove, they just call. So that kind of ruins my plan. Now on this board, I think that this is the kind of board where I can just shove or call their shove, because I could actually see pretty wide range calling, like queen king, jack queen, any hearts, pocket 9s, pocket 8s, might even want to call. So they check. Looks like I check. And they bet 581, and it looks like I shove. So the money's going to them, and they have ace 8. I guess I got a little bit more confidence because I have a jack of hearts, and there were 3 hearts on the board. But because they only had such a small amount left, I feel like because they're also 53-21, they could be doing this with a pretty wide range and just being super random and just trying to bluff the pot because I checked behind. That was probably my intention. I felt like if their range is so wide, like even super wide stuff like 7-8 of diamonds, things like that, they're not going to call my flop shove. So it would be better to allow them to try to bluff on the turn and for me to just call them. And that plan apparently failed because they had ace, but I think that my argument's pretty solid for that hand. This player limps, and we're a little bit deeper, and so I limp. I just kind of call pre-flop, which I'm fine with. I really don't think that you're going to make an argument that's going to deter me from limping as well sometimes. But this player wants to play poker, and so they raised the pot, and I'm perfectly okay calling because, again, we're a little deeper, and there's a 36-10, and I have position. Like, I'm not going to be folding 5-3 suited here almost ever. So Barbas bets, Vlo calls, and I call. Check, 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 and that's fine. So I still have a pair of fives. That's a money card right there. That's a nice river. So Barbas bets, and I think that that's a pretty big bet sizing. My thinking is that if they're bluffing, then there's really no reason for me to shove, because they're not going to call me anyway with whatever they're bluffing with. Like, if they have broken hearts, or if they're trying to steal the pot with like a pocket sixes or some crap like that. So it's a pretty polarized range. They either have a really nice hand or they're bluffing. And now I'm thinking, it's like, if they have a really nice hand, then what hand could they possibly have that wants to bet the river so ferociously as he's doing? Like, this is a pretty big bet into two other players on a brick. The turn was a brick, the river was a brick. And I have this gut feeling that Barbas has the wheel. I just have this gut feeling here that there's no reason for me to shove, because if they had something like 10-8, they would have bet the turn. And I think that it's a little bit too it's too confident of me to believe that I can shove 5-3 here and have Barbas call me with like a 10-jack, something that they're pot controlling on the turn, because the 8 of spades on the turn is not a scare card whatsoever, and the board is a little bit more drawy as well. It makes me think that Barbas doesn't have like a strong 10, but even if they do have a strong 10, they're probably not going to call a shove, or even if I just min raised it to 14. So again, it's polarized between a bluff or some kind of a very weirdly completed hand on the river that checked the turn. That's the feeling, the gut feeling that I had. I think that my argument makes perfect sense, and I decide to call. It's a crying call too, because I'm like, I mean, if they're bluffing, that's great, I'm going to win the pot, but just the bet size here on the river is screaming a wheel to me. So I call, and as you see, they have the wheel. These are the kind of reads that you're going to be able to develop, but alongside an argument. Like, my argument dictates, because of the way they played their hand and the way the board ran out and their bet sizing, all this information put together dictates your decisions. And the decision is that I should not be shoving, because if they're bluffing, they're not going to call anyway. And if they did happen to make a completed hand, let's say they had pocket threes, something random, and then they bet super strong, pocket threes of the wheel are the only things that really make sense here. Because other two pair combinations aren't going to make sense unless they also have something like 5-3, but they're not going to be, you know what I mean? I hope that all makes sense. Okay, looks like we have 8-9 off. This should be an interesting hand. Okay, so I'm raising 8-9 off, and as you see, my stats are a little laggy. I like to see a lot of flops, and I like to play poker. So 8-9 off plays very well multi-way. So if this player Vlo calls, and this player calls, and this player calls or folds or whatever, then it's fine. I mean, 8-9 off obviously is not a very strong hand, but It's 25 NL, and I feel like I have enough of an edge where I can kind of just play this and at least break even. It kind of just gives me something to do in between other tables where I might not have had any hands playing at the time, and I'm just like, okay, I just want to play a hand, and 8-9 looked pretty. So because they're not shoving or 3-betting the rest of their money, it makes me think that they might not have a strong ace, or like a queen might not be in their range. So it's probably just random stuff like 9, 10 of hearts could be in their range, low pocket pairs, things like that. So I'm just gonna bet this and not bet it too big, just to hope for a fold. So they call. I spike an 8 on the turn, so I have showdown value, so I'm obviously going to check. It's not like I'm going to try and get tricky and shove the turn and try to get a fold from a queen. Like, I don't really play like that. I'm just, maybe at like 200 NL, I might make a decision like that. But I'm going to have pretty strong reads, sick reads for that to happen. This hand doesn't seem very interesting, so buddy shoves after I make trips. I'm going to snap that off and win the pot because they have an ace and I have trips. Next hand, pocket nines. 53-21 is limping. We have a 53-47 over here, and I'm going to be raising this. Pretty standard. This player shoves, and I'm licking my chops right now. Like, I'm really happy to call with nines. Super happy. Ouch. So the money's going to them. That sucks. And they have Jack Queen. So good game, well played. They have a straight. I probably thought I was good with my set. Yeah, okay. Next hand. Not much to talk about on that one. Queen 9 suited, it's 4-way, and we have a 36-7 and a 40-23. So I want to play a pot with Queen 9, and also 4-way. Queen 9 is probably a pretty strong hand. I'm not really too certain on like 4-way opening ranges and things like that, but I'd open this at 6-way sometimes if I felt like I would get called and I'm in position against like one of these players. So let's just go crazy here with Queen 9 suited. I flop a flush, probably not a very interesting hand either here. I don't see any reason to shove. I guess I could have shoved. Yeah, probably could have just shoved. But then I'm thinking, like, are they really gonna not call me with 460 if another diamond hits and they want to bluff? Like, I feel like I can just let the hand play out and they can just shove the rest of their money in if they want to with pocket sixes or whatever they have, maybe like queen high. So I call. They shove anyway, I call. I win. They have aces. Again, not a very interesting hand. So that's my session review. I think that we had some really interesting hands where I got to talk a little bit more in detail about them. And then as you see, a few of these hands were kind of just like not very interesting. But I don't really know that until I get to the session review. I don't choose hands to do the reviews for in the video. I just pick the hands that are all 30 big blinds or higher and kind of just see what happens and just hope that we find some interesting spots. So that was 45 minutes of 12 hands, and thank you so much. That's my 7th video, the first video of my 25 NL session review, and I played some 50 NL today, and I think it's like, what, 8 hands that I'm going to be reviewing, and I actually might just get to that tonight. I'm going to keep these videos coming until I start to see myself playing more on the perfect spectrum. I really don't see myself making too many mistakes anymore. But like little things where I can change my bet sizing, or maybe I could be 3-betting a little bit bigger, or things like that. That stuff is really, really important if you want to increase your win rate and increase your profit. But most of like the obvious glaring errors I've taken out of my game at this point, at these levels, and it's going pretty well so far. Like as I showed you before, it's $250 profit. I mean, it's 131 EV adjusted over 7,000 hands in the past 4 days. So yeah, we're going pretty strong. I'm going to keep it going. And thank you so much.